You are listening to the Knightline Sports Network, brought to you by Travis Dever and the Dever team, 386-690-1636.
Knightline is brought to you by the Dever team, your source for New Smyrna Beach real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Go to www.thedeverteam.com and call UCF alumni Travis Dever for all your New Smyrna Beach needs. 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636.
Welcome to UCF Knightline, your source for UCF sports and former player information.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley coming to you from the 1148 studios, and this is Knightline 242 from the award-winning Knightline Sports Network. Joining me, as always,
Roger Phipps, and on this week's show, T stands for terrible. What do you do, brother, when the defense comes for you? Part 2. Playing it safe with QB2, by the numbers, pole position, game stats, FIW Fodder, Roger's 5-alarm hot take, Knightros Deep Thought, Inside the Huddle with Kyle Israel, and your questions in Ask Knightline.
Alrighty, well, it was a good game the other night. What was it? 38-13 victory over Temple. I didn't have it pulled up right in front of me like I should have. Pretty good performance. There was a few little issues, a little bit of a lull from our offense in the second and fourth quarters, but besides that, a pretty good game. What are your thoughts off the top of your head there, Roger?
Well, the defense came to play again for the second week in a row. They held Temple to 290 yards, so that was the second sub-300-yard game in a row. Temple did play their third and fourth string quarterback, so got to temper your expectations a little bit. But the defense held up their end of the bargain. Otis, what can you say about Otis? Some of those runs that he was doing, I mean, he looked like he did a year ago. So we all know that he's been battling injuries, but some of those spin moves and just how quickly he was moving. He was picking his poison as far as the holes were concerned, so I was extremely impressed with him this week. Temple did some interesting things. Something they did that other opponents haven't. They kept checking us at the line and then adjusting to our set to get an advantage. So basically, what they were doing was they were doing essentially what we do when you see Dylan clap his hands and then he looks to the sideline to adjust the play. And the difference is that they were trying to bait us into and decide whether we were going to stay in that same defense or if we were going to switch. And at the beginning of the game, we pretty much stayed in the same defense the entire time. But as the game wore on, you saw adjustments being made from the linebacker position, etc. So that's something different that we hadn't seen. I imagine we're probably going to be seeing something similar from Cincinnati because they're going to be playing time of possession football and playing the averages and trying to keep the ball out of our hands. So that was extremely exciting. And Marlon Williams, man, what a beast. I mean, some of those catches that touch on staying upright, the guys were playing in front of several NFL scouts, so I imagine that was probably on their mind when they were doing it, and looked extremely impressive. The defense got 4 sacks and 9 tackles for a loss, and the defensive backs really was excited about what I saw from them. And what I saw from them that was different this week is they knew the plays. They were reading them properly. Derek Gaines, if you were watching him at all, he was moving across the field when he recognized a play to make sure that he was in the right position to stop. And that allowed us, with that confidence for the middle linebackers with Gilliard and Bethune and what they were doing, that allowed us to have some confidence in our secondary and maintain and contain, which is something that we have not been doing a great job of, and therefore running quarterbacks have been a challenge.
This segment is brought to you by Mountain Dew, by the way. Diet Mountain Dew for Roger there. Lordy mercy. You you said a lot there. I don't have anything to say anymore. You said it all.
Not all
There's
of it.
nothing there. There's nothing left. All right, let's hear from Josh Heupel on, this game was a little bit weird on the stat sheet. Let's hear what he had to say about that.
A really unique way that the game kind of unfolded. You look at how they were playing, kind of milking the clock from the first series, and then we got short fields, get behind the chains a couple of times in the second quarter there, and then create some big explosive plays in the third quarter. And then obviously, end of the third quarter, we got a few of the backups in trying to get some guys out and give some other guys some opportunities. And so you're in 4-minute offense for an entire quarter. It's just a unique way the game unfolded.
And then Dylan Gabriel commented on kind of the same thing here.
It's just a super unique game in the sense where defense, put us in a lot of short field, and then, we took advantage of that. But, man, the defense played really well. We were running the ball well at times, but, penalties brought us back, and that's big. That's something we have to work on. But, great team win, like truly a team win, and, I'm glad that we've come out with the W. So.
Man, I cannot wait till press conferences don't have to be done by Zoom. I cannot wait.
The digital voice?
Oh, yeah. It gets old. I can't wait till things are back to a little bit normal, as I'm sure the rest of us can't wait as well. Let's hear what Josh Heupel had to say on the young defense.
It hasn't been too big for them. Again, all those guys are young, but going to continue to get better, but they're playing at a really high level. Got great energy and focus inside the building, preparation on the practice field. That's why they've come out and played the way they have. All of our players on our football team on the defense side of the ball have great confidence in those guys.
We heard from Dylan Gabriel earlier. Let's hear what Josh Heupel had to say about him.
Yeah, a couple of times he just got his eyes on the wrong spot and wasn't playing the right side of the football field there in the second quarter. That's going to happen from time to time at that position. Obviously, you don't want it to. He's playing at a pretty high level. I thought he did a good job of taking care of the football again tonight. Can't take any of that for granted. And then I thought he was decisive and, got things going there in the third quarter and took advantage of some one-on-one situations.
All right, and we talked about a little bit of a lull in the offense, especially in the second quarter. Let's hear what Josh Heupel had to say about that.
Some of it's just execution. We got a third down pass that's open down the sideline. We don't make the play, a throw or a catch there. It's got a chance to be a big play. Got behind the chains with a holding penalty. So there's some things that are simple things that we can be cleaner at and allow us to stay ahead of the chains. When it's going good, there's a lot of execution that's taking place. And when it's not, one guy might be off and you got to find a way to get 11 guys operating as one again. I thought we did that as we came out in the third quarter.
All right, another clip here from Josh Heupel on the defense.
I thought we were relentless with our effort all night long up front. We rotated and played a bunch of guys. We've had some young guys that have gotten opportunities the last couple of weeks here that have made plays when they've gotten opportunity to be in there. They've been disruptive. I thought our linebackers, again, did a great job of tackling in space all night long. They fit their gaps. Our defensive line linebackers and then our safety rotation and some of our fits, we did a great job of hatting it up. And obviously, they were playing the more athletic of the quarterbacks there early in the football game. Some quarterback run, thought we handled it pretty well.
All righty, and one thing that we did see this week, we saw a backup quarterback for just a little while in the whole fourth quarter, actually. So here's what Dylan Gabriel had to say on Quadri Jones.
I love Quad, and he's a great player. He's elusive, athletic. Throws the ball well, and he's just got a good head on his shoulders. I'm his biggest fan, and likewise, I know he's supporting me through everything. So we have a great relationship, and him just being able to go out there is something I love for him, just because I know how great of a player he is.
All right, well, that's it for the clips. I ran through them really quick so we could get them out of the way and we could talk about other stuff, I guess. So, talk away we shall. What, Cole Schneider had a really tough game.
Yeah. You can say that again. I don't know if it was a communication issue or what, but unfortunately, when they got pressure, they weren't getting pressure anywhere but up the middle. And that's going to be super important versus Cincinnati next week because they're going to if they can get pressure with 3 or 4 D linemen, it's
and
going to be
I
a
hate
long
to
night.
call players out. It's not that I'm trying to call him out, but I just if I could look at one thing that kind of that I noticed a lot, the announcers on TV that weren't the greatest announcers, obviously, but they spotlighted it a little bit and had some replays of just him and the stuff that he was doing. He looked lost out there sometimes, and it's not normal for him. I don't know if he was having a bad day, didn't feel good, whatever. It happens, but they've got to get that under control for next week. Against Cincinnati, they've got to.
Yeah, he's normally a very, very consistent stalwart on our offensive line. He's played consistently over the past few years, and he's just one of those go-to guys for them that they can kind of slot in there. But he and Matt Lee were having some challenges in between the tackles, and they were getting some defense. The defense was getting some pressure there. And the key for us, if you look at Dylan Gabriel's numbers, they're dramatically different on completion percentage. 52%, I think, versus in the 70s for him when he's got pressure on him or he doesn't. So we're going to have to find ways to get him some time to roll out, to set his feet. And part of that's going to be on the offensive line. Part of that's going to be on the scheme. So we'll see what old Josh Heupel has dialed up for that.
Yeah. Well, and I would hope that Josh Heupel knows and the whole team knows what Cincinnati did to them last year. And I would assume that they would think, Cincinnati, said after the game that they pulled out this defense they'd never played before, blah, blah, blah. Hopefully we're prepared for that. Maybe we'll see an offense or something that they've never seen before.
Well, we should be prepared for it. I mean, ever since they did it, it seems like every other team has tried to play that level of defense. Right. So we should be in a good spot with that.
So hopefully there's some wrinkles that we will see that we haven't seen before to try to throw them off a little bit. We can score right with them. We actually score more points than they do. We average 45 points a game. They average 39.3. We should have that one, hopefully. 39-3, 45,
Well, what'll be interesting...
Right now, a minus 4.5 favorite is Cincinnati. So...
Well, what'll be interesting is to see, for us, we score approximately 60% of the time every time we have a possession, right? We didn't do that this week, but again, we had our second and third stringers and took the second quarter off. But what'll be the difference is going to be the turnovers because they average 1.8 turnovers per game. We average 1.3. So people think about this vaunted defense that they have, but UCF does great when it comes to turnovers, and if we can get the possessions and increase our possessions, we'll score more points.
Do you worry at all about the way that UCF played against Temple for next week against Cincinnati? Does it worry you at all? I think that we play down to our competition quite a bit.
Worry, yes and no. I'll say primarily no, though, because I do feel like once we got up to that 21-point lead, Josh Heupel did what he normally does, which is take it a little more conservative and try to play a little bit more of a time of possession game. We don't do that very well because it's not what we do. But with the exception, I think it was Tulane that we had that 8-minute drive at the end of the game. That was the one time we did it, and you heard it in the clip earlier, the 4-minute offense. You saw Heupel pull back, and again we lost our momentum and our rhythm, and our offense is so rhythm based that I think it's hard for us to get that back, and I think that's what the second quarter was. So I don't think we're going to have to worry about that. What we're going to have to worry about more next week is Cincy's defense disrupting our rhythm, not us disrupting our own. Yeah.
It says right here, I'm looking on ESPN, and Cincinnati only allows 12.4 points a game. We allow 28.7, so that could be a little bit worrisome there. I don't think they've played anybody like UCF, though. So as far as the 12.4 points a game, that could be interesting, though.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is on that, on both sides of the ball, is going to be who can contain who, right? Because for us, it's going to be containing Desmond Ridder and making sure we funnel him to the to in between the tackles if he's going to take off and run, because he does not do well passing the ball. And that's going to be the key for us on defense. Offensively, there's going to be two keys. One is, for me, it's can the wide receivers shake loose, because they weren't doing as great of a job of that this week as they were normally. And the one time that it did happen with Harris, we saw what happened with that missed opportunity. So I think that's going to be a key to the game. And I think the other key to the game is going to be, what do we do? What do we pull out of our hat? Do we start running bubble screens? Do we start running Dylan Gabriel? Because we have to have someone spy on him to take them out of the box for Cincinnati, because the less number of defenders that we have coming in the box, the less pressure that they're going to get. And then, are we going to have a power run game? So are we going to be seeing a lot of Bell coming in as like a fullback or a 2 tight end set? Because those are all things that we did this year that we can pull from the toolbox to play against a tough defensive line. But the defensive backs or our wide receivers have to get away from the defensive backs for all of this to work, because if they can't, then they're going to load the box and it's going to be a long night for us.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, statistically, we look pretty good against them. So I didn't really mean for this to be a Cincinnati preview show, but I guess we're talking about it. I kind of started it, I guess. But, yeah, I mean, there are certain things for sure that we do a little bit better than they do. Obviously, our quarterback is quite a bit better with 23 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Their quarterback only has 14 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. So I think we run the ball a little bit better than they do as well. So Dokes, it looks like, is the guy that they pull out here for Cincinnati, and he has 109 carries for 563 yards and 7 touchdowns. They compare him with Otis Anderson, 97 carries for 563 yards, which is interesting, and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, that 5 yard per carry average is going to be tough to beat. So that's something where our defensive line is going to have to get pressure, and we're going to have to be pretty creative with our defensive backs. What you saw a little bit more of was last game, not necessarily this game that we just played, but the game before, was we were using a spy, and you really hadn't seen that very much up until this point. And so if Richie Grant is going to be spying their quarterback the entire time, that's one less help on our already single high coverage that we typically have. So we can get exposed. So we have to jam the receivers off the line. If we can do that effectively, get an extra body in the box with a safety that's crashing, I think we'll be in good shape. But that's going to be the key thing to watch out for, offense versus defense, because we are going to need everybody that we can get to contain Desmond Ridder. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, so I guess we should go back to the game that we just played. And I mean, I wasn't really, like I said before, trying to do a preview, but I guess we did it there. I just started thinking about it because I was looking at it on my computer screen.
It's on everybody's mind. Everybody's wound up about this game. I mean, a lot of people.
It's a big game. I mean, it's the biggest game that we've played in a while. To be honest with you,
it means a lot for our season, right? Both in the ability to get potentially ranked, but also in the conference race. If we beat Cincinnati, then we set ourselves up, because right now we're in a two-way tie with SMU, with us getting the nod. And then you have Tulsa, who surprisingly enough is undefeated so far in conference. So if we beat Cincinnati,
and just beat SMU,
yeah. So that puts us in a position to potentially have a slight path, or a slight potential path, to a championship game. So this is going to be a big game, but none of that happens unless we beat Cincinnati.
Right, absolutely. All right, also, none of it would really happen in a good way if we didn't beat Temple. So Temple, our defense played really well, again, like you said earlier. Lots of good play from those young guys. That's the biggest thing, I think. It's surprising, to be honest with you. You would not expect all those young guys that weren't the starters to come in and play as well as they have, and it's awesome. I love that they're doing it the way they are.
Yeah, you're talking about freshmen, right? And I think the big
not all of them, but I mean, some of them, yeah.
Thornton, he's a freshman. Devontae is a Brown, I think his last name. Devontae is a freshman.
Redshirt freshman or a freshman? True freshman?
I want to say he's a true freshman.
Okay.
Obviously, Gaines is not. I think this is his third year with the program. But that leaves Richie Grant in the back and A-Rob. And obviously, they're both seniors. So, when you have folks out there at cornerback position on an island by themselves and they're freshmen or even true freshmen for that matter with limited playing time because we've had such great defensive backs, I mean, it takes a few game reps. You can practice all you want, and you can speak to this as well as I can. You can practice all you want, but once you get in a game, you get the nerves. You're seeing someone who's going all out, right?
Yeah.
You have to get some, and even just learning your eye movement. Okay, what am I going to look at for my keys first? What am I going to, if I see this, what does this mean? Okay, can I recognize this fast enough from the film to actually be able to do something about it? Do I trust myself to make the read properly and be in position? Because when you play the defense that we play, those guys are out there on an island. They have to be able to stop those guys in the first 5 yards, slow them down, because they have one safety that's going to be out there for help, and half the time he's crashing. So that's a lot of pressure on a freshman or a true freshman or a redshirt.
Well,
freshman.
it also says that these guys were coached extremely well. Off the field, off of the actual playing field. So. I love that. We wonder sometimes about coaching, and a lot of people bring up, the different coaches' names and Randy Shannon, and how he, whatever. When they struggle, he's horrible. When they don't struggle, he's awesome.
Yeah.
I still say that he's awesome. He does a great job. I'll never buy into the part that he's not a good coach, and he's a great recruiter. So
he's got an aggressive defense.
It's showing now, though, and the rest of his defensive staff as how good of coaches they are, though.
Yeah, I mean,
by these second-string guys being able to come in and do the job like nobody's ever missing.
Well, and then you look at the linebacker core, right? So that's the other piece to this, right? You've got to be able, as defensive backs and as safeties, in order to crash that safety, you've got to have confidence in your middle linebacker to be able to understand defenses, make adjustments, make sure we're plugging holes, and then also dropping into coverage. So one of the gaping holes that we've had in our defense has been in the middle of the field on slant routes or something like that. And what you're seeing, and I saw it from Bethune, you saw it in that interception that he had, that manly interception where he's literally like going through two defenders on a bubble screen, or not defenders in his case, offensive players, on a bubble screen to go and grab that ball away and literally rip it away and then run and kind of stumble and, fumble it out. But still, an interception nonetheless. And that was because he knew exactly where they were going to be. He had the confidence to play the ball. And then, look at Gilliard. I mean, that guy was all over the field. Oh, my goodness. That's what we were expecting from him.
Yeah, he's really come around as far as really being a good player. So finally, he has.
And that gives your defensive linemen the confidence to make sure that if they're spying and they think that they see something that the running back or quarterback's going to do, it gives them the confidence to go chase that guy because you got backup behind you that's going to fill the gap that you just left. So that's the key there. Speaking of Eric Gilliard, 12 tackles, 7 solo, 1 sack, 3 tackles for a loss, and a fumble, and I'm going to say taken. Because it was a strip sack fumble.
Awesome.
It was just...
You don't see that very often. It happened like that. He just literally took the ball out of the guy's hand.
Yeah, he wound up and just grabbed it.
It was like the second or third play of the game, I believe, but he literally just took it out of his hands.
The other guys to look out for is Cam Good. He's really starting to step up. He was in the backfield constantly. He had 2 tackles for a loss himself. And then, when we're looking at the overall picture... you had Tatum Bethune, and he looked great along with him as well. So Tatum has stepped up, and we were one of the areas that I know we were all talking about was that linebacker position. And with Gilliard stepping up and with Tatum Bethune stepping up, that allows them to be a lot more aggressive, and that's what Randy Shannon wants. He wants an aggressive defense. His goal is to put pressure, to create turnovers, right? And that is the key. It's the same way we play offensively, right? We play aggressive style of football when we're not up by 3 touchdowns. But every other time when we're actually playing, we play an aggressive style of football.
Speaking of aggressive, wasn't very aggressive. What do you think about the special teams play from this week? There was a field goal that was kind of interesting. There was a 45-yarder that it wasn't even close to being made.
I went back and looked at it. It looked like it got tipped. So that, again, is a special teams mistake, because if the ball is being snapped and we're not blocking them well enough for them to get close enough to get tipped, either Obarski's not kicking the ball fast enough and his windup's taking too long, or the blocker had a miscue on that. So that's something we definitely need to work on. However, go ahead.
I've said it before, and I've seen this guy kick really, really long field goals. Not in a game, but I've seen him, in tape, kick really long field goals. Really long, like 60-yarders. I'm sure he does it before games out there practicing. The thing is, I just think that his head isn't in it. I think that there's something that they need to get to in his head, that when he gets out there, I don't know if he obviously gets a little bit of nervous. Everybody's nervous when especially you're a kicker. It's the one guy that has to do his job right.
Every time, because there's so few times that it happens.
Right. So I just think it's something in his head, and I don't know, what needs to be done about that, but they need to work on his head somehow.
Well, how sometimes you sit a QB, maybe you trot the new guy out there and see.
But is there a new guy, number one, and is he horrible, number two? You know what I'm saying? We don't know what happens in practice.
Yeah, we haven't seen him.
I know that there's another kicker. There is one other kicker, but we haven't seen him kick off. And we have Riley Stevens is his name, I believe. He's a freshman. I believe that he was from Dr. Phipps.
Yeah, he was a local kid.
Yeah. We don't know anything about him, except he's 6'2" and 170, and he's a freshman, and he's from Dr. Phipps. That's literally all we know about him. We haven't seen him do anything. So is this a situation, I wonder, like with Dylan Gabriel last year, where Coach Heupel's not going to take the kicker out or Bowski out for anything because he wants him to get valuable experience? Valuable experience, though, has hurt us a couple times.
Well, I can tell you this. If we're playing Cincinnati, we're not kicking a 45-yard field goal with Daniel Obarski. Now, we'll do that against Temple when we're up by 21 points, but we for certain aren't going to do it against
But
Cincy.
He literally should be able to hit that 45-yarder with no problem. I just, I don't understand.
We go for it on that down for me. If we're in between the 50 to the 40 range, and we're on that side of the field, we just go for it.
Yeah, I think that it was because we were up, and you just don't want something bad to happen at that point. And these things are discussed every week with Heupel, and when he decides to kick and when he decides to go for it on fourth down, quite a bit. And he likes to play it safe. That was the safe way to play it. I thought about it when this situation came up, but I was like, all right, he's playing it safe. You'd rather obviously get the points than, throw an interception for a pick six or something crazy happen. So,
well, you kind of saw it. They took the foot off the gas in the second quarter as well, and then they turned it right back on after the half. One bright spot for our special teams was Ryan O'Keefe. He had 3 returns for 74 yards. He averaged 24.7 and had a 52-yard long return.
And I somehow missed that one watching the game. I don't know if I ran to the bathroom or what happened, but I missed that one. I didn't get to see it.
Well, I will tell you this.
I'll rewatch it at some point, probably.
You should. What really impressed me with him is he goes from 0 to 60 in no time flat.
Yeah, he's fast for sure.
Not just fast. There's some people that take a while to
quick.
get up to speed.
Yeah.
He can get off the line, and he's gone. The only other thing really is the punt return. So there we had a couple of missteps. Otis has not had the best record on punt return. in decision making, right? So by and large, he's held the ball, and that's what we want him to do.
Well, knock on wood, he hasn't dropped one recently.
Recently, exactly. That's what I mean. Hold on the ball. But there was one instance where a ball dropped at around the 6-yard line, and he caught it. He should have let it go. He let the next one go, so he definitely learned his lesson. But that's the one area of opportunity. Because Otis, with the ball in his hands, obviously we want the ball in his hands and letting him go to town. But not a lot of people are punting to him, and their hang time has been pretty good. And he's just got to get a little better about that decision-making. Because
we haven't had a punt or a kickoff returned this year, correct?
We have not for a touchdown.
Yeah, it's a bummer. That's something we kind of miss. I like those. Those are it's always a good time.
Remember McDuffie when he used to be you never knew whether he was going to take it all the way back or not.
AK could run him back too. So that's one thing that we're kind of missing there. So, all right. What else you got here?
Well, the next thing that I had on my list was playing it safe with QB2. So let's kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah,
I know. It's a little bit. There was two camps at Night Nation. There was but it was a very vocal and large one, and I tend to agree with this. So I know we may, there's reality of working with Coach Heupel, and then there's our thoughts, individual thoughts on what we should do in this situation. So, when we saw Quadri, the first thing that happened was Thompson dropped the ball, right? He fumbled it. And so I felt bad. I felt really bad for Quadri because it's like, okay, where's the trust going with that and how does that set up? But then in successive drives that he had one pass that was almost intercepted and he completed a pass. But what was more impressive with him is he actually ran and kept it. It was almost like a wing type formation that we had going on back there. He kept the ball on the option, went to the sideline, and he averaged 10 yards a carry. He put up 3 carries for 30 yards, 10 yards a carry. So that was pretty exciting. The big question is, what if you have an entire quarter? You have Quadri as the backup because Mac's gone, right? We knew what Mac could do. And this guy's had a grand total of 7 or 8 passes. Do you allow him off the leash a little bit to get him some reps in? Now,
absolutely not.
Okay, see, we're on opposing opinions on that because I really think that we need to give him some reps. We still got 3 games left in the season, and unfortunately, knock on wood, and I literally am knocking on wood right now, Dylan Gabriel is safe, sound, and healthy for the rest of the season. However, if something were to happen with Matt gone, I don't have a whole lot of confidence that we have enough practice for those guys behind him to be able to carry the day.
We don't. But that's reality, I believe. Maybe, you never know. They would probably have to do things a lot differently if Quadri Jones had to be in. You would, I think, run the ball a lot more than passing the ball. We know he has a good arm. We know he can sling it. But I just don't think in the situation that we saw him in, that's the time to do it.
Okay.
Even though we were up, I don't personally. That's
Okay.
just my personal opinion. You don't want anything bad to happen.
I agree, but we had Dylan sit, and
So
I know
I didn't even look at Twitter. I've kind of stopped looking at Twitter during the games and after the games, except for posting a couple things or whatever. It kind of drives me crazy. So I've kind of just stopped. Were people wanted to see Quadri Jones let loose and just to play
unleash the beast kind of thing. So it wasn't just Twitter, but it was all over. Really, it was by and large. People were thinking, hey, he has not had an opportunity to do this. We've finally gotten up, and these guys aren't coming back. Why not get some reps in for him to prepare us just in case the worst happened? Or even if Dylan had to sit out a few series because he had to get his ankle taped or something like that.
I would think, though, that he is prepared because he practices just as much as anybody else does. I would think that he would be prepared, and if he needed to come in, I would think that he would do his best job. Now, what that best job would be, I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking. Is this more of a judgment on his capacity or capability on the ability to run the offense, and we just go conservative and we're saying it's not worth it? Or do you think it's just, hey, let's get through this fourth quarter because we're up anyway?
I think it's just playing it extremely safe. We know that Josh Heupel likes to play it safe. He's not the kind of guy that'll run up the score. He's not the kind of guy that'll do too much crazy stuff. And I think that this was just one of those things where, hey, let's take our starters out so nobody gets hurt and let's just glide the rest of this game out. Let's just glide. That's what they were doing. He pulled pretty much everybody. We saw Greg McCrae in there a couple times, and there was, sporadically, a couple starters in there, but.
Well, that was, I think, because Demarius Good and Bentavious Thompson were not making any headway. So I think he was trying to milk the clock, and in order to get that last possession, he put McCrae in there to make sure that we got those last few yards, even though Quadri was the one who ended up getting what we needed to get the first downs to continue and drag out that last possession. But still, I think that's what he...
Then again, do you want Quadri going out there and playing full tilt and somehow get injured or something, and then what do you do after that?
Parker Navarro?
And we saw him. We've seen him once. I think once this year we saw him. Yep. I don't know what he's thinking about that. And it wasn't asked in any of the press conferences, so I have no idea, to be honest with you. But I think that he's just playing it safe, and I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I'm perfectly okay with it.
Fair enough.
I mean, yeah, that's just my opinion. And I'm sure it's other people have other opinions, but whatever.
Yeah, we're allowed to have it. That's part of having a podcast.
Exactly. It is what it is. All right, let's take a little bit of a break here, and then we'll be back with Kyle Israel, and you can get his opinions on the game and what it's going to take to beat Cincinnati right after this.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
An auto accident can change your life forever. At Chad Barr Law, we are raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney. Hi, I'm Chad Barr, and I want you to know that our entire team is dedicated to providing you with the representation you deserve in your greatest time of need. If you or a loved one have been injured in an auto accident, call 407-599-9036 for a free consultation or visit chadbarlaw.com. At Chad Barr Law, our clients come to us in need and leave as family. Offices, Altamont Springs.
Looking for more out of your Porsche? Look no further than Flat6Motorsports.com. They have the widest selection of aftermarket Porsche parts anywhere in the world. With over 85 product lines and in-depth expertise, Flat6Motorsports.com is your one-stop shop for any Porsche performance needs. Whether you're shopping for intakes, exhausts, suspension, or tuning, they have you covered. Flat6Motorsports.com is the premier Porsche aftermarket specialist. Check them out at Flat6Motorsports.com. All right, please welcome Kyle Israel back to the show. Kyle, pretty good game the other night, 38-13 UCF over Temple. The offense struggled at times, but the defense was pretty solid for the most part for the starters. What did you think of the game the other night?
Well, I was there in person as my first game of the season that I was able to make. So that first and foremost was just nice to be back in the bounce house. And I thought it was a game where, gosh, I couldn't get out of my head. There was like 6 minutes to go in the first quarter and we were up 21-0. So I think our offense did what they needed to do by starting off fast and really kind of putting Temple, for the most part, out of the game is what I felt very early on. And then our defense obviously played really, really good with some guys stepping up that maybe we were all unfamiliar with. So I thought it was a great win, type of win you want going into a huge, huge, huge matchup against Cincinnati next weekend. And I'm not 100% sure, but I think for the most part we got out of it pretty healthy.
Absolutely 100% correct on that fast start. Then the second quarter kind of lagged, and then the third quarter I actually texted Andrew and said, hey, it looks like the offense is a little upset and came out firing. So did you see, one of the things I've been wondering and looking for as we've been going game to game is looking for new wrinkles. So did you see anything new in preparation that they were trying out for Cincinnati that you may have seen that was different than what we've been doing this year?
Well, I do know that we saw Jalen Robinson on the jet sweep, right? And we were able to kind of toss that to him, and I think he had like a 75-yard run. And I think that you can do a lot of things off of plays like that. So fake it to him and bootleg out, get the ball to your tight end. So it was nice to see us find different ways to get Jalen the ball, not just from a straight drop back perspective. But I don't know that there was a whole lot more I saw in person. I haven't rewatched the game since that really stuck out to me. But I did like that we were trying to get the ball to Jalen in different ways.
What do you think of Dylan Gabriel? 12 for 22 and 268 yards. Kind of not a great game for him as far as throwing the ball. I mean, he threw the ball fairly well, but there just wasn't a lot of passing game in this game. A lot more rushing. Yeah,
I mean, those stats could look a lot different. I thought that he threw an incredible ball down the sideline on one third down play, maybe in the second quarter. Where we weren't able to come down with it. It was just over the fingertips of
Jacob Harris.
That would have been like a 90-something yard touchdown pass right there that really would have added to the stat line. But I think where I'd like to see improvement is third down. I think we were like 4 of 12 on third down. We're going to have to be way better than that against Cincinnati, in my opinion, to beat those guys, especially because they have a really good defensive backfield and play overall very good defense. So I think just the down and distance and being able to put ourselves in position to make the job a lot easier for Dylan on third down is going to be critical. And that's where I would highlight the efficiency needs to get better is those third down plays.
Do you think that this game was kind of a play down to the competition type of thing? It seemed like that to me. Like they weren't trying as hard as they normally try. I feel like they do this quite a bit.
Well, if we say 25-point victories are play down to the competition, then sure.
Because they knew that they didn't have to. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
They knew they weren't going to get outscored.
I think that I don't know if there's ever a team that really goes out and I think that is kind of real possibility. But I felt like there was a lot of energy. I was sitting right behind the bench and, I felt like the guys were up for the game. But again, I think that there were some drives where we just weren't efficient on third down. This game could have been totally different were we able to convert some of those third downs. I think we were on the field as an offense for only 22 minutes. We had 2 quarters where we didn't score any points. Obviously, the fourth quarter is a bit of a different dynamic, but you'd like to see us get some points on the board in the second quarter. I think that a Temple that's 1-4 at the time without with missing a lot of guys for this football game, it may not have been the type of excitement and play that we would see, for example, next weekend.
Yeah, Kyle, one of the things that kind of jumped out at me when I was watching this game was our offensive line has looked pretty good last week on the run game. This week they were looking pretty good on the run game, but again, when Dylan was dropping back, they were getting pressure with 3 and 4 linemen. And where I really saw that happen was between Matt Lee and Schneider. I don't know if there was some communication issues going on, but between those two, anytime they were getting a pass rush on Dylan, it seemed to come from that direction. So question for you, was that just, I know Temple has a couple of players that are really, really solid. Is that just them moving the pile, or do you think there's something that they need to do or could do to tighten that up?
I'm not an offensive line guru as far as coaching is concerned. I know that there were times where I saw Dylan have to get flushed out of the pocket, have to maneuver his way around the pocket. We saw him do that a couple times and be able to keep his eye down the field and throw the football. Temple generally over the years has had a little bit better of a defensive line than average in the American Conference. So, they were able to get, I agree, some pressure. But I don't know that there's anything that would definitely need to change from a technique perspective or from a scheme perspective. I think I said versus Houston, when you have one-on-one matchups up front, or when you're trying to pass guys off, I mean, the defense is going to get the best of some guys once in a while. And I think if there was a strength on the field yesterday for Temple, it was some of their defensive linemen. And I'm not too concerned about that, but I'll tell you what, going into next week, Cincinnati is by far the best coach football team we're going to play against. They know to stop us, they've got to get pressure on Dylan. And so it is a point of concern going into this week that we've got to shore up the offensive line, because we're going to have to play our best football offensively to beat Cincinnati. And that offensive line is going to be, the most critical part to give Dylan time.
Yeah, and that worries me because Cole Schneider had a horrible game. He looked like he didn't even know where he was at half the time, to be honest with you. If you watched him, I watched him on a lot of plays, and he there was one where the guy came completely around Cole Schneider. Cole was supposed to run block it, or he was supposed to pass block, and he ran blocked. So, it was ugly. Hopefully he gets his stuff together a little bit. Talk a little bit about the receivers. Jalen Robinson, we mentioned earlier. Marlon Williams, though, this guy has come leaps and bounds over the last couple of years, and he is just a absolute freaking weapon.
Unbelievable. I mean, we are so lucky to have him, and he showed it again last night. Obviously, I think he could have had 3 touchdowns in that game had he not dropped that one right after he had the spectacular play. I thought Dylan was trying to reward him and help him get in the end zone, and it kind of bounced right off his chest plate. Sometimes those can be the most difficult passes to catch, the ones that are right to you. But I mean, you look what he did on the play before that, and caught that pass. Dylan was able to find him, move around in the pocket, and then Marlon keeps his balance. Like, I haven't seen a guy keep his balance for 10 yards like that.
Yes,
ever.
that was going to be my next comment. I wanted to talk about that. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody do that. He literally put his hand down on the ground 3 or 4 times during that. And I mean, the core strength, number one, that took to do that and to keep yourself from stumbling head over heels was amazing. Like,
I think,
athletic-wise, I mean, it was incredible.
I totally agree. And it's always one of those things that you see wide receivers and running backs practicing over there at practice, kind of before, you get into some team stuff and individual drills are catching the ball and, putting their hand on the ground and trying to keep their balance. But to do it for 10 yards and to do it in a game, I think what was even more impressive to me is if you see right when he regains his balance, he looks over his right shoulder and kind of tucks the ball his way as though to anticipate a defender coming off his side and trying to strip the ball away. And so what that tells me is that Marlon is really conscious of what he's doing on the field. I think that, motor memory has kind of taken over, and he's just a complete player and not a small guy at all. I mean, he could be he may be one of the larger or the largest skill player that we have on offense, like total package wise. I know Jacob Harris is very tall, but Marlon from a strength perspective and a physical thickness perspective is top notch. So I'm confident that he's making his way into being a 2nd or 3rd round potential draft pick. And he's phenomenal.
That was the next thing I kind of wanted to ask you about that. What do you think of his, you said 2nd or 3rd round there. I mean, he's a different wide receiver for sure. He's a thick guy and all that, not extremely tall, but he just plays with lots of heart and lots of skill. I mean, doesn't matter what he looks like, physically, I don't think.
Well, I mean, there's 2 things. Number one,
6 foot, 215 is what they say on the roster.
Yeah, so I mean, he definitely is a big time pro prospect. I think what you've seen is we've had guys, Traquan Smith, Gabe Davis, who are incredible players for UCF, and you could argue that while at UCF, Marlon has looked better than all of them. Based on his overall abilities to run passes across the field, run passes from the slot up the seam, get on the outside and run quick routes, get on the outside and run fades. I mean, one of the best plays I've seen in a really long time that sticks out to me is that touchdown he caught from Dylan in the back of the end zone. It takes me back to a pass I saw Jeff Godfrey throw back in 2010 against Houston, where he hit Quincy McDuffie in the back of the end zone, like 55 yards away on the money. And that pass last night is arguably the best pass I've ever seen Dylan throw. And Marlon catching that, he was catching it kind of blind because the defender was in the way of his vision to Dylan, and it just kind of crept right over that DB's shoulder right into the breadbasket for Marlon. And that was something that I turned to my buddy who had never been to a UCF game and was a collegiate swimmer. And I said, that's big time football right there. That's a big time throw and catch. And that stuck out to me a lot.
Yeah, the thing about Marlon, when you're talking about NFL prospects, help us understand, or help me understand better yet. Do you think he projects better as like a slot type receiver or the outside? I know his speed isn't exactly the fastest, but he's definitely someone who can catch through traffic and will go through defenders as they're trying to tackle him. So for him, is he projecting, do you think, more of a slot or a wide out type receiver?
I think he's definitely projecting more as a slot receiver. Offenses now in the league are using guys all over the field and trying to get mismatches lined up with linebackers. And I think one of the beauty about Marlon is that he can take a hit and, he can catch and run with the football. He can break tackles. So as a quarterback, it's nice to have big guys that can, take the top off and you can throw it deep down the field. But those are harder passes to hit on a regular basis. But if you got a guy that you can get it to him at 8 yards and he's going to make a move and get 17 yards out of it, they become very valuable. And I think the way that he's built and his size at 215 pounds makes him a guy that teams would want to add to their roster. And you throw on top of that the softness of his hands overall and his ability to catch the football in traffic, which is how the NFL is played, in traffic. I see him fitting into that slot role.
Yeah, let's talk about the defense a little bit. 4 total sacks, 3 turnovers. One of the biggest things, which I think it was pretty crazy actually, was Eric Gilliard just ripping the ball out of the quarterback's hands. Just took it. Just walked up to him and took the ball, which was pretty incredible. You don't see that very often happen exactly that way. There's a lot of younger guys. This is probably the weirdest situation that we've ever had at UCF. As far as, with the guys that got kicked off the team and all that, and all these guys just showing up and playing just as good, if not better, than those guys were playing. It's amazing to me, especially, guys like Eric Gilliard and even Jean Baptiste as well. Big time play from those guys the other night.
Oh, I think Gilliard had like 12 tackles, a fumble recovery, the forced fumble. I guess you count that as the same play. 3 tackles for loss. Our linebackers tackled really well in space, I thought. And, yeah, it is a unique scenario. You lose some guys that are arguably, bested their positions in the American Conference, certainly in the defensive backfield. But at the same time, I think I always recognized when I was playing that there were young guys that you were like, man, if we needed him right now, he may be better than the guy starting, but the guy starting just has the experience, and that is what makes the coach a little bit more comfortable. But, we clearly had talent at the second string position on defense, and so I'm thrilled for those guys. And it's not as though they've started and then kind of, mess their pants. They're stepping up and making big time plays, and our defense has improved. Some of the teams that we played offensively earlier in the season just had better overall offenses. But what you've seen out of that unit and the way that they've kind of gelled and the way that they get excited for each other, I think is something that I get excited about for years to come. And I thought that defense played extremely well. Temple's quarterback was about 5'8", and he wasn't their starter, but he's a Division I quarterback on scholarship, and we made him kind of look like at times that he didn't belong out there. So I thought our defense played extremely well. I think that they'll continue to get better, and it's remarkable. I don't know how many turnovers we have total this season that we forced, but Eric stripping the ball from the quarterback. We got an interception. Luckily, it kind of bounced. It was an easy interception that turned into a spectacular interception. And so I think that our defense is playing really well.
There were a couple of those. Both the interceptions were a little funky. Tatum Bethune with that one on the sideline, and then I think it's Corey Thornton that the ball bounced off of 3 or 4 times. So
Tatum Bethune, I got to cut you off real quick because that play by him, he blasted through essentially 2 blockers for Temple and intercepted that pass. And I think you got to point to Randy Shannon and the coaching because it's as though he knew exactly what Temple was about to do.
That's what he said.
It.
Yeah, that's what he said in the post game. He said that he saw them do that play earlier, and he looked at the group of people that were out there, the players and the formation they were in, and knew that they were throwing that exact same pass again. So he said last time they hit it for a first down, but then jumped on it that time. So it was pure film study. I mean,
that's a tough thing to do because you always kind of wonder, can players take what they're seeing on film and take the coaching and then go and act on it in real time?
He did.
And he clearly showed that he was able to do that.
Well, you saw that too with Derek Gaines. I've been watching him intently because he was someone that the coaching staff had been talking about for a while, and then he had a few rough games. But it seemed like the entire defensive back and secondary did a lot of film study because they were in position a lot better this time than they were in the past. And you would see Gaines run all the way across the field because he recognized a formation or a play or something like that. So hats off to them for doing that. And then the other thing that I was really impressed with defensively was we actually had a containment. Before earlier this season, you didn't see containment. And we knew that Real, I forget his last name, but Real's strength was running. And one of the things that kind of had a snake bit was the guys weren't reacting to their keys properly and were getting beat to the sideline. So what did you see differently from the defensive side that allowed us to keep that containment? Because that's going to be important with a running quarterback next week against Cincinnati.
Well, I think it was their eyeballs. I mean, our defensive ends were in inside tackles when they were stunning. They were consciously keeping containment. You can see sometimes when those DNs engage the tackle and then they kind of have their arms out and they're trying to look around. I think that shows that they're trying to keep a presence of mind, when they're pass rushing and when they're rushing up the field in the running game. And if you're a defensive end that has confidence that your linebackers are going to fill the gaps that they need to fill on run plays especially, then you can kind of take that hard release up the field and feel confident that somebody's going to fill that void. And so I think when you see those guys consciously looking into the backfield and doing what they can to stay up the field, number one, that's been coached. But number two, again, they're in real time, they're playing the way that they've been coached. And I think that really, really helps. And I think a guy like Richie Grant that's played so much football, helps getting our defense aligned out there and getting them in the right positions. And so that technique of being able to peek into the backfield is very evident from where I was sitting. And makes a difference. It's going to be critical next week. It's going to be critical.
Yeah, and we're going to miss Richie Grant for sure when he moves on.
He almost had an interception last night. We could have 4 turnovers.
Exactly.
But, yeah, that would have been a nice another feather in the hat for him.
He was in the backfield and everything last night, so he was all over the place, had a great game. Running backs, what did you think? Otis Anderson, 84 yards. Greg McCrae only had 38 yards. Both of them had 10 carries. Otis Anderson seemed to be the guy that was on it a little bit more last night for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that some of that situational, Greg seems to be turning into the guy that we go to down in the red zone. I think he's probably the better red zone running back. You could argue that Bentavious is good down there too. But, Otis creates problems for a defense when he's on the field, period, because you don't know, what the team's going to try to do with him. Are they going to throw a screen pass, a swing pass? He's going to get out into a route and catch a ball. And then he's able to make players miss. I mean, one of those runs that I think he had for a touchdown where he spun off that guy was a great run. So I think it's solid. I mean, our running game doesn't doesn't concern me too much. It looks different than most other college football teams in the country with how we run and our schemes, but I'm confident in really all three of those guys. I know we got some young guys behind them. It'll be interesting to see, with players being able to retain their eligibility next year, if we all of a sudden get those guys back or if they choose to go to the next level.
Yeah, we had 5 running backs that touched the ball last night, by the way. Odor Sanderson, Greg McCrae, Bentavious Thompson, Demarius Good, and R.J. Harvey all touched the ball. So that was interesting to see all those guys. Good as well that a lot of the younger guys actually got into this game. It pretty much, starting the fourth quarter, was second team on both sides of the ball. So that's good and good for them to get some actual game time as well. Talk a little bit about that and how important that is.
Well, it's critical. And I mean, not just for, really not just for like them getting game experience, but really for their mindset and their psyche. When you're in the games and you can get some reps, it gives you a little bit more confidence, number one, but it keeps you engaged throughout the week at practice. It makes you feel like you're a part of the team. I know at times guys, when I was playing that were, down on the depth chart, you kind of question like, how interested are they on Tuesday, Wednesday going into the week? And so I think for the psyche and the mindset of those guys, it's great reps. And it's important that when we can get those guys reps that they can go back and watch themselves on film with, it just improves your program for the long term. And so I think it's definitely beneficial.
Cool, man. So we're super excited about this game, but I'm also, and I think this was on everybody's mind, is Cincinnati, that looming big game next week that I hope that people show up to the Bounce House and show their support. So thinking ahead to next week, what do you think our keys to the game for our victory versus Cincinnati is going to be?
Well, I think turnovers are going to be number one, and that sounds kind of boring, but we're going to have to continue to create turnovers against Cincinnati. They don't make many mistakes, so when we have an opportunity as a defense to get our hands on the football, we've got to do that. I think last night we probably could have had 5 or 6 turnovers and ended up with 3 because we weren't able to kind of either cover a fumble or we dropped an interception. Like, that can't happen next week. Any opportunity you get is going to be critical. Secondly, our third down conversion has got to be probably closer to 50% instead of, I think, 25% this week. So, we've got to be able to convert on third down. There's going to be times in the game Cincinnati gets us in third and long situations. We're going to have to pick up a few of those. And then defensively, we're going to have to be stout up front. We're going to have to be able to get pressure on Ritter. Like, a lot of people talk about Ritter as, a guy that's vastly improved, and he has, but I still don't think he matches up to the talent that we have at quarterback. So I think we're going to go into the game with a better quarterback. And Cincinnati's going to have a much more experienced overall football team. So creating turnovers, being efficient on third down, and then, making a big play on special teams. I think, if we can return a punt and get ourselves in good field position, or if we can, if guys ever return kickoffs anymore, it seems like more and more you're not getting those opportunities because kickers are kicking them out of the end zone. We're going to have to do that. And then thirdly, and lastly, I think that we're going to have to make every field goal opportunity that we get. If we get down into 30-yard line and we got a 47-yard field goal, or we get down to the 25 or 28, like, we've got to bang through those field goals. And so any opportunity to get points on the board, we've got to do that. And we just can't. Lastly, we cannot have penalties. We only had 6, I think, last night for 49 yards. I think Temple had 4. So we still lost the penalty battle. We're going to have to be more, poised, and we're going to have to hold our water. And it's going to be a big game on potentially ABC, where, we're going to know the nation is watching us. And so we're going to have to, to stay focused and eliminate the penalties, because Cincinnati doesn't beat themselves. I think that's one of the, Luke Fickell traits is, number one, they're going to do some things schematically to really mess with us, but 2, they're just not going to beat themselves. And so in return, we can't beat ourselves. And I think that's the way to get ourselves the best chance to win.
Currently, the spread on that game, minus 4.5 for Cincinnati. So it'll be interesting being an underdog at home.
Take UCF right now.
Yeah.
Take UCF right now because that's going to move back to closer to 2, I think.
Yeah, probably. Do you think that they can do it? With the being the underdog and the spread and knowing what we know about UCF this year, do you think that they can beat Cincinnati at home?
I think that we can, and I think one of the reasons why is this will be the first time we're in a big-time game where we're not the favorite, where we can play a little bit more loose, where we can be the spoiler for a team. It's a different scenario in big-time games than we've been in the last 2 or 3 years. And although Cincinnati is very talented across the board, I think we have the better athletes. I think we have more speed. And that's why I was excited to see us get the football to Jalen Robinson in some different ways. And so I definitely think we could beat Cincinnati. I think we could beat Cincinnati going away, but not if we shoot ourselves in the foot. I think that if we play our best game as far as mistakes are concerned, and we just leverage the talent that we have, we're more talented than they are. I don't know if we're more talented in the coaching box. I give Luke Fickell a ton of credit because he's a very, very good football coach and draws up a lot of great defenses. But I think that we can win this football game. I think that we're going to go out there and play with reckless abandon because there's really, for us, nothing to lose at this point, and Cincinnati has everything to lose, and that's not the situation we've been in over the last few years.
I just had one more quick question for you. Considering the pressure that 3 and 4 down linemen have been getting on Dylan this season, do you feel like we're going to see more shotgun and design rollouts for Dylan?
I think that we may see some more play action design rollouts or just more intentional play action because that'll keep the linebackers kind of honest throughout the game. I think our offense passing wise has challenges when when linebackers are able to drop into coverage. It creates a lot of traffic across the field. And I think the other thing that we're going to see is Cincinnati has very good defensive backs, so they're not going to be afraid to play man coverage. And when you get man coverage, that means generally you have a 6th rusher coming all the time. So it's going to be critical for our running backs, whether it's in play action or just straight up drop back passing, to be the extra blocker and really hold their water. And so I don't know how much design rollouts we'll see, but Dylan's going to have a couple times in that game where he's going to have to make some things happen with his feet. And our offensive line is going to have to communicate about where pressures are coming from. The running back's going to have to know where he goes based off those calls where pressure is coming from. But I think if we're able to establish running the football earlier in the game, then we can leverage the play action game. That'll give us the best opportunity to be successful offensively.
All righty. Well, we will talk to you after the game again next week, and we hope that we're talking about a win and how wonderful it was to dispense of Cincinnati at the Bounce House for sure.
Agreed. I hope that as many people can get out there as possible. And although it didn't feel the same, obviously, it was nice for me to get back into the Bounce House and enjoy a game in person. And we're going to have the national spotlight on us again next week, and we've kind of faded off into oblivion here for a few weeks. So if we can get a big win like that, it'll certainly, help recruiting and help the momentum going into the next year.
All righty. We will talk to you next week. Thank you very much.
All right. Sounds good, guys.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley reminding you to tune in every Tuesday night, 9 to 10 p.m. on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, plus the WDBO app for Knightline at Night. Brought to you by Chad Bar Law. We'll be taking your calls and your texts reacting to the previous week's UCF sports action, and you never know who will show up. Once again, that's Knightline at Night, every Tuesday, 9 to 10 p.m. on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, plus the WDBO app. Go Knights and charge on.
Welcome. This is a promo for the Take a Left at Albuquerque podcast, new to the Knightline Sports Network. You should listen to it. I say things like this.
We need to stop blaming Jerry because we would do the exact
same thing if we owned the Dallas freaking Cowboys. Do you know how much fun it is to own the Dallas Cowboys? My guests will say things sometimes like this.
It's the Lord of the Flies thing that happens when they don't understand that things are wrong, spoiler alert, until Piggy dies.
Yeah, Lord of the Flies has been out for like 100 years. I don't even know.
Sorry to everyone at home who I spoiled the book for. A book's been out for like 90 years or something.
And sometimes, rarely though, I'll say really stupid things like this. If they don't make it out of the West and the Raptors get to the finals, I will go on either this show or whoever's show and say that Kawhi Leonard is overrated because I have too much evidence of it. New episodes drop every Friday with me and some of my good friends right here on the Knightline Sports Network.
All right, well, one of the things that he hit on there right at the end was he was talking about recruiting and how important it is, or he mentioned it, but it is important when we have a national TV game, even though our last two games should be on national television, even the one against the...
those guys.
The Southeast... or whatever they are,
the
Southwest Florida,
Central Florida, 0-6 in conference team. Yeah, those guys.
Yeah, they looked great against Houston, didn't they?
Oh my gosh,
awesome.
Stellar,
awesome! I love it when they play.
They smelled good too.
I don't know anything about that.
A steaming pile of cow.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Anyway, very important for us to do well in these last couple of games for recruiting. I think that it really makes a big difference when kids on the national, on national television can see UCF do something good.
Yeah, I mean, we've got this game. I know Kyle said he thought it might be ABC, but Cincinnati will be ESPN at 3:30. So still national TV, not an ABC game. We've had our fair share of that this season. So it'll be a big opportunity for recruiting. Cincinnati has certainly taken advantage of their play the last couple years. They just recently signed another 4-star recruit. Our recruiting is sitting at right at number 72, although we've got a long way to go for our recruiting standards. Now, one thing the NCAA is going to do is, again, going to lengthen the no contact period, which means folks are not going to be able to be on campus, which helps us sell that. However, if you look at our recruiting, this is a perfect example. A game like this is how well we've actually done in recruiting. So Ryan O'Keefe of the world, the Oklahoma transfer, Jalen Robinson. So it's going to be a combination of transfers and a combination of high school recruiting, but everybody's operating under the same rules. So we have to play well on national TV because that is our spotlight for it, since we can't have kids on campus.
Yeah, it's been rough. This has been a rough, dealing with recruiting like this. But everybody's going through the same thing. So if they're following the rules, that's the big if. I'm sure some of the schools are not, but. That is what it is. I have no knowledge of that, but I'm just sure that.
You mean the SE cheat schools?
Well, that would.
Did I say that?
Yeah, that would probably be some of them. You never know. I'm sure somebody's breaking the rules out there somehow. Probably Scott Frost in Nebraska.
Talking about someone potentially coming to play for them. KZ.
Yeah. Well, yes, that's he.
He put that out there.
Well, it wasn't. I mean, he did say coach. He did say to coach. And I've known about that for a long time. Since the day that he was injured, he has had the opportunity to go coach there if he wasn't going to make a comeback. I know that for a fact.
Well, and Frost.
I know from the beginning that he had that offer. Frost had his back, said that he had his back from day one when he was injured, whether he wanted to play again or not. So I will give him that, and I think that's a nice thing to do, but... I don't think that I don't know if that could be considered with tampering or not. I mean, because he does talk to him, I believe. So I don't know. It's just it's kind of a weird thing. And I don't know that the NCAA should look into it or anything like that. I just think that it's potentially crossing boundaries a little bit.
I do think there's a rule, even if we're talking about coaching, that he can't talk about an active player in that way. However, all of that being said, KZ and Frost went through a lot of similar things in their journeys. So Frost at Nebraska, when he came in, because remember, he was at Stanford first, and then everybody hated him when he came back to Nebraska because he left Nebraska to go to Stanford. And then the whole situation with the Cure Bowl with KZ. So I know they have a special relationship and bond, not taking anything away from that, because outside of football, let's take that away. I'm glad that they had that level of a relationship, because any mentor that can provide that for you is a positive.
Absolutely, yeah. And, I mean, he would have a great opportunity, and I would not blame him one bit, and I would not be upset one bit if he went out there and coached after this season. I would not blame him at all.
I wouldn't either, but I'd love to get him back to the program. It still
He'll
drives
get back
me
to the program at some point, I believe, but I just don't think that it... I mean, if you have the opportunity to go coach at a Big Ten school versus coaching at UCF, where... Why are you looking at me like that?
Well, you couldn't see that, folks, but it's like...
He gave me a dirty look.
Well, I mean, I get it. It's Big Ten school or whatever, but at this point...
It's money, number one. It's a lot more money that can be offered to a grad... a grad...
graduate assistant.
Graduate assistant or whatever. Tons more money.
I don't think you get paid as a graduate assistant, whether you go it or not, because you go to school and your
then he
scholarship
wouldn't be
is
a graduate
taken
assistant. I said that wrong, I guess. But anyway, if he was paid to be a coach, I should say, there's a lot more money for him there.
For how long? Because I'm not sure Frost has that much longer in Nebraska.
I think he just signed a 6-year contract. They extended him.
When?
I think that they extended him like last year or something already. I think he's still got many years left.
He might, but I don't know. I'll tell you this. There's a lot of Nebraska fans that are not happy with Scott Frost right now.
I'm sure that they're not. But I think if anybody, he's their golden boy. If anybody had the chance to be there for a few seasons to try to get things turned around, it would be him. We'll see. But I still think that he has a better opportunity out there than he does at UCF. And people can hate me for saying that. I really don't care.
No, it's not about hating. It's a valid question. Does he have a better opportunity or not? I think from a longevity perspective, I don't know. I listen, if it's one thing that I've learned about big time college football, and let me say that about this, right? Big Ten Nebraska has big time donors. And big time donors have loud mouths and can make changes very quickly.
They can. This is true, but you also have to remember who Scott Frost took with him.
Mm-hmm.
That were, Becton.
Yeah.
That was a full-on UCF guy. Went here, played here, coached here.
He was never going to get the head coaching job, and he wanted the head coaching job.
Right. But he also followed the money with Scott Frost, and so did everybody else.
I don't blame him.
I mean, that's what, if Mackenzie Milton really wants a good opportunity to coach, I think that that's where he goes, is Nebraska with Scott Frost. I really do. I think that Heupel will always look at him as a player versus more like Frost would look at him as a coach, and really want to mentor him. I don't know if Heupel would do that. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I don't know.
It would be. I'm sure someone will ask at some point, Coach Heupel, about that.
Someone should ask. I'm putting it out there.
I think that somebody asked something late in the week, I believe. I don't know if it was particularly on that, but it was about Mackenzie. I think they were asking more if he was going to get some snaps at some point this season, and I don't know about that. So,
well,
we shall see.
Whatever's best. Let me say this about that: whatever's best for KZ, I'm supportive of, because that guy.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, whatever's best. And we're talking about you feel like going to the Big Ten and going to Frost is the best bet for him. And if that's the best bet for him, I support him 110%, no matter what. I mean, the guy is just a great personality. He's a great person.
If your first coaching job was at Big Ten Nebraska versus American UCF, what would look better on your resume?
I don't know. I mean,
Well,
do you have a one?
I love UCF. You all know that. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't.
But let me put some.
I'm not saying that.
But let me put some perspective on it. If you're talking about a 1-win Nebraska team or a 3-win Nebraska team that's not doing anything well, and you put that on your resume versus someone who's constantly top 25 or winning 10 games a season, which one does look better?
This is true. I when you say it like that, this is true. But what if Mackenzie went out there and coached whoever, became the next guru quarterback coach or whatever, and it turned that situation around a little bit?
It's a big if to me.
I mean,
if he does it, great.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm on board with it. What I'm saying,
I think he
is,
will always want to get back to his alma mater. I really do, because I know that Mackenzie loves UCF. I know that he does. But I just think for him, the better opportunity would be with Scott Frost.
Well, that's fair.
In Scott Frost's system that he played the best in, that he knows very well, versus Heupel, that did not recruit him.
Fair.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I get that.
I mean, it's nothing against anybody. Nothing against UCF, obviously. But it just is what it is, as far as that goes. For me. It will be sad. It definitely will. It'll be sad when KZ leaves, no matter how he leaves, or where he leaves to. It'll be sad. But you have to wish the best for him, whatever he 100%. Wants to do. And I just think that that's a very, very good opportunity. And I know that it's been on the offer's been on the table for a long time. So I'm just trying to prepare people. I just want people to know that, it's been talked about. It's been talked about now openly in the media. So just do not be surprised when it happens. I do not think that he will go there as a player, though. I think that's crazy. I think that's absolutely crazy. He will finish his playing time at UCF, and he will go someplace else to coach, Nebraska. That's just my opinion. Okay. We'll see what happens. Nothing against UCF, obviously. I do this and a radio show and everything else. I don't think anything badly of UCF. I just think the opportunity for him would be better at Nebraska to be a coach. So, whatever. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
As the world turns.
Exactly. Yeah, I got that one on here too. We used to play that one all the time.
As the world turns.
That can be used for so many different things.
Well,
I don't use my sound effects nearly as much as I should.
Well, that one I think was for realignment conversations
the
back
whole
in the day.
Big 12 when we
Debacle.
talked about that every week. Yes. Yeah.
All right.
So luckily we're not talking about that at the moment.
Well, I think I'd much rather be in a position where they are.
Well, yeah, this is.
But I know what you mean.
2020, I don't think is the time to talk about realignment. I just can't wait to get 2020 behind us. To be honest with you, in a way, I wish football season would end, and I hardly ever do that. Although this time of year, I'm usually getting pretty tired of everything. So I'm just ready for 2020 to end. I want full stadiums. There's nothing worse. We're watching a football game, NFL game against Baltimore, and I think it's Baltimore and the Patriots here, and there's no one in that stadium. There is nothing worse that I hate than empty stadiums with fake crowd noise, and especially when they put the little cardboard cutouts of people. How stupid is that? I hate it.
Well,
I hate this entire situation, and I cannot wait. In fact, yeah, I want it to be over. I want full freaking football stadiums. I want the bounce house packed. If we could do that this weekend for Cincinnati, it would be so freaking awesome. It would be crazy out there.
Well, it was the last time we played them at home.
That was the game day, and that was freaking awesome. There was nothing like it. I've never experienced anything like that in my life.
100%.
And, yeah, so I can't wait till we get back to those days. I think that it's coming, obviously. Obviously, it will happen again. I just, this whole football season has been completely messed up. So it's all going to have an asterisk.
Michigan did take the opportunity to, when they, or not Michigan, Wisconsin, when Michigan lost against them, right? And they got embarrassed because I don't know what happened to Michigan, that their wheels fell off. But they took a screen grab of a guy who was a cardboard cutout with his hands in the surrender cobra and then posted that on social media. And I was like, you go, Wisconsin, because that's freaking amazing.
Yeah. I didn't see that game. I heard that it was a blowout, though. I don't even know what the score was.
Oh, it was a blowout. I started watching it, and Wisconsin was just steamrolling them, and it was just like, I got to wonder, how long is Harbaugh going to be out there now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. He's gone pretty decent with them, but it hasn't been the way that it has been in the past.
So do you want to talk about Cincy at all, or do we want to kind of talk about that? I know we kind of covered
it a little bit. I mean, we can talk about it a little bit more. I mean, I don't know what there is to say per se.
Well, I mean, how are you feeling about this? Are you feeling confident? Are you feeling? I know we asked Kyle, but how are you feeling about this? Are you feeling confident in this game? Edgy?
It depends on what team shows up. It depends on if we go out there and have penalties. It depends on if we go out there and lay an egg in a quarter versus scoring some points. It depends. I'm more confident about our defense now, to be honest with you. I'm not nearly as worried about them. I'm just worried about if our team shows up fully. I think they will, because they know it's a big game. But then again, when it's a big game, sometimes they don't show up.
Well, which big game didn't they show up for? Because I know Georgia Tech was a big game going into it. They showed up for that one.
Tulsa was a pretty big game.
They didn't see it that way. Tulsa wasn't.
Memphis was a pretty big game.
Memphis now. I'll talk about Memphis.
All those games at that point were a big game. Tulsa especially was a big game. Every game when you're ranked and undefeated is a big game.
I have a feeling they overlooked Tulsa a little bit because they did it the last season, and when...
If they knew that they could get beaten by Tulsa, though, like they did last year, they got embarrassed by them last year. At least this wasn't a total embarrassment.
That's true.
But when you're ranked and every game is a big game, ranked and undefeated, every game. You can't have a game like that. And I understand I think that was the first game in the bounce house, right?
It was.
And it was weird. I know the vibe out there was weird.
Well, Tulsa's used to playing in front of empty stadiums. So.
I know they are. So it's nothing for them. But
I think we'll be up for this game, and I think they're going to be on point, and I think they're already up for this game. And I think Dylan Gabriel will have something to prove. I know he said he did that, and he had that for Tulsa too. But I think this is a whole nother
ball
level.
Game.
Yeah. Well, for a couple reasons. One, I think because we still do have an American championship to play for, and on top of that, I feel like he knows how big this game is. And the last time we played, losing in the fashion that we did, I think this one he's had circled all year long. So I think Dylan's going to be keyed up. I think the defense.
They all said that about Tulsa too.
I
know this is way bigger, but I don't know. That's my opinion. If they show up, they'll play a good game. I think we have a chance to win it. I think we have a chance to win any game that we're in.
Agreed.
Special teams have to be together, though. If he has to go out there, if Obarski has to go out and make a 45-yard kick, he needs to go out there and make a 45-yard kick. He can't do what he did against Memphis and miss it.
Well, the special teams in general can't. The other part about it is for me, again, is those turnovers. If we can win the turnover battle, we have won 22 games and lost 1. So if we can win and get more than 2 turnovers,
we'll see
we
what
win the game.
I want to see what the spread looks like later on in the week. I want to see how all this starts looking because there's not a lot on there yet. So,
well, speaking of the spread, do you want
They say that I was looking at my favorite thing on ESPN.com here. I'm looking
the
at
matchup
the matchup predictor. I love it. It's my favorite thing. 56.4 chance for UCF to win over Cincinnati, 43.6. But then if you look at the actual the numbers that are out there on the spread, Cincinnati, again, is a minus 4.5 favorite.
Well, when I look at the matchup predictor, that's basically to me saying, like, you're giving 3 points to the home team favorite, or home team as the favorite. So when you say 56% win percentage chance, it's like basically on a spread giving 3 points to the home team, right?
And then they do this likelihood thing. So that's the likelihood stat that they're using, which is interesting because you would think that it would be the opposite way. Anyway, whatever.
Since we're talking about numbers, do we want to do by the numbers?
Sure, go ahead.
All right, let's get that knocked out. So just to update you, Knight Nation, the last 47 games, so that's the games since 2017, since start of the 2017 season, UCF has 41 wins, 6 losses, and the biggest loss was by 8 points. So think about that, folks. 41 wins, 6 losses since 2017. 44 games had 30-plus points, including this last week. 29 500-yard-plus games, 5 P5 wins, and 5 600-yard-plus games. We came into the game averaging 45 points a game, which was 6th and is now 11th. So we're now at 44 points, which dropped us from 6th to 11th. We had we're averaging 619 yards per game. So again, that went down. And the big thing is, can we get enough points and yards to get ourselves back in that conversation for that record against Cincy, because Cincy has only been allowing 292 yards per game, which is consequently about what we did in passing in this last game. So this game, it was also kind of weird for us because we only had 65 plays for this game. Normally we were last game we were averaging 92.8. We are now averaging 88.9, which is still number one. But our passing yards went from 417.7 to 396. Now, again, we had 313 last season, so we're still doing much better than last season, but the numbers are definitely down. As Kyle mentioned, we were 4 for 12 on third downs, which is 33%. We had been averaging in between 50 and 60% per game on third downs. So last two games, last game we had 50%, 53%. This game it was 33%. We got 3 turnovers this game, which was great. That makes 16 for the year and 1.3 per game. We had 2 interceptions, Bethune and Gilliard, that we talked about. And we had 147 yards this game. Now, this is a big deal because we've been hovering around 200 yards per game rushing. And McCray definitely had a difficult game. And however, McCray did move into 5th place in all-time rushing TDs this season. He surpassed AK, who had 25, and now Greg McCray has 26 career touchdowns. Dylan Gabriel now has 2,774 yards and is now second to SMU's Michelle by 7 yards, which I'm confident he will make up next game. He also leads in passing yards per game at 396.9. He had 179 pass completions so far at 23 TDs, so he's up from 21, and 2 interceptions. Now, 23-2. And we're 7 games in. Now, you think about that. That is huge, and that's a huge mark of a great and efficient quarterback. Not only is he putting up the yards, but he's putting up the touchdowns. Meanwhile, Marlon Williams did slip to 2nd in the nation in yards this week. He had 942 for the season and 63 receptions, and he's went from 150 yards per game to 134. But he still had over 100 yards on 4 catches this game. Meanwhile, Jalen Robinson stays steady at number 5 in the nation with 822 yards, so nipping on Marlon's heels. And he also had over 100 yards this game. Rushing, Bentavious Thompson had a terrible game. He had a 1.4 yard per carry average. Otis Anderson, consequently, had a great game.
Speaking of Bentavious Thompson, we were kind of having a conversation between us. Should we bring this up?
Well, I have that on my hot take.
Okay. I'll let you.
Do you want to table that for that?
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about it.
No. Let's. I didn't realize that was your hot take.
Well, it wasn't mine, but
yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It's fine.
So, time of possession 22 minutes versus 37, which is the least amount that we had this season, but goes back to those 65 plays. This game and Temple just milking the clock. We had one turnover, 6 on 15. 6 of 15. Scored on 6 out of 15 possessions for 40% of the possessions. One missed field goal, one made field goal. 5. But here's the big stat for this particular game: 5 punts. 5 punts. We haven't had that many punts in a game since I think last year. So that was a huge deal. However, inside the 40, so once we got to the 40, we were 6 out of 7 for 85%. So the big thing was for us is we were getting pinned back deep for various reasons, and we weren't moving the ball. Once that happened, it allowed the defense to tee up on us. And again, we are not as efficient when we have a pass rush. So that was the big thing. Penalties, 6 for 49 this week. Devontae Brown got called for a 15-yard pass interference. He was playing really, 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 really hard. And by hard, I mean he was pushing his receivers around. So they were playing very physical. He got called last week as well. So keep an eye on that, but I think that's him learning. Dylan Gabriel, 55% completion percentage this week. Last week, remember, he was 57. His season average is still 64. He was 12 of 22, 2 TDs, 0 interceptions. The big thing for him that I'd like to see more of for him is hitting the running back in stride. We have screens that we can do, but he just, for whatever reason, that's the one pass that he can't get. He can throw it all the way across the field off of 1 foot, but that was the big thing, and his QBR was 53.6 versus 76 for the season. So that is the stats, or by the numbers for this week. We can either run through my 5-alarm hot take.
Let's go to your 5-alarm hot take.
All right, let's do that.
This is what we need to do at this point. Go ahead.
All right, so on this week's 5-alarm hot take, it isn't my 5-alarm hot take. It's actually one of our compatriots. I'm not sure if I'm going to call him out by name on this. I'll let Andrew decide. But we were having a sidebar conversation on Bentavious Thompson. So our third amigo.
I mean, that's pretty much telling everybody who said it. We'll just say somebody said.
Somebody said.
Let me see if I can find the actual conversation.
Okay, so while he
wanted to quote it.
Oh, okay. So it involved Bentavious Thompson, and the conversation hovered around his prowess.
All right,
so go ahead.
This is how it went down. This is how it was written. This is word for word, verbatim, they would say. Slightly controversial statement, semicolon. Bentavious Thompson is overhyped on his potential, but he's not all that good. I tend to agree with this personally.
What?
I completely agree with it, actually.
Okay.
First of all, there's been situations where he just really makes some bonehead mistakes. Yes, he's had opportunities and looked very well, but it was the offensive line that made him look really good. That's what I will say about that. He has some potential as being fast. He's pretty quick. He's kind of a vanilla type runner, though.
Well, what
he can run straight up the middle.
But that's what he was been brought in for. Because he's a big body.
Do you not think he's been here for a while? He's not that much bigger than the other guys. He's a little bit bigger than the other guys, but
he's 6'2".
Okay, but I mean, he's not huge though. He's 6'2", but he's kind of skinny. He's not a huge dude. He's not like 230 pounds or something.
No,
like that.
he's not. He's
He's
not
like
200.
what, 200 maybe?
I thought he was like 217.
I don't know if he's 6'3" either, but
he's not 6'3".
or 6'2" or whatever you said. I don't remember, but I think with as long as he's been around, that he
6'1", 196 when he was recruited. And I think he's a little bit over that now, but I remember it was 6'2", but he's a lot larger than all of our running backs.
Well, I don't know if that's taller, yeah.
We do not have any 200-pound backs other than Bentavious
6'1", 197 is what they list him as.
Okay.
I just think if McCray is 5'10", 175. And honestly, I think I love Otis Anderson, but I think, and I've said this all along, Greg McCray is the best running back out of all of them. Pure running back.
I won't disagree with that statement.
Bentavious has had some good plays, yes, but if he was that good, he wouldn't be the third string running back. If he was that good. You know what I'm saying? Yes, we've had good running backs over the we had AK, we have Otis, we have Greg McCray. If he was that good though, he would not be.
He's averaging 5.7 yards per carry, man. And that's what the rest of them are. Now, he hasn't had as many touches, right? No. But at the end of the day, like you said, we've been using him as the big back, the third down back mostly. And on top of that, you've had AK, Otis, and McCray in front of him.
But then he comes out and has games, the few touches that he had this week, like he had.
But so did McCray. I don't know. In my mind, I
think he's been quite disappointing. He averaged 0.5 yards in his 2 carries this week. 0.5. And he fumbled.
He did fumble. Yeah. I don't know. To me, when I look at him, potential, I don't think he's had an opportunity really to do what he needs to do, but just because we've had such...
I think we'll see next year.
Yeah. But we've got Demarius Good right back there, Johnny Ford as well, so we've got another 3 that are back there too.
We'll see. If he is the guy, and if he's the running back that some think that he is, we'll see next year, I guess. I agree with our compadre that said the other thing.
Okay.
Personally.
All right.
I'm not that high on
So that's 3 things we've disagreed on this podcast.
That's fine. We don't have to agree on everything.
No, I know.
If we agree on everything, then it makes it really kind of boring.
I know, but it's not very often that we get 3 things in a podcast. But I will disagree with you on this because I do think he has the capability to do it. I just don't think he has
the capability. He just hasn't done it.
Not consistently.
I'll
give you that.
Okay. All right. Well, that was
my 5-alarm hot take.
Was that it?
That was it.
Okay. So he's averaging 5.7, you say?
5.7 on 47 carries.
Okay.
For this season.
And what are the other guys averaging?
It was somewhere in the 5s. It was in the 5s too.
Okay. All right.
I think I might have it here. Hold on one sec.
All right. I think I found it here. All right. So as of yesterday, actually, November 14th, today's the 15th, Otis Anderson leads with 5.8. Greg McCray, 5.4 average run. And then Bentavious Thompson, 5.0. The guy that leads them all, though, Johnny Richardson.
Yeah, not Johnny.
He's only got.
Not
you
Johnny
said Johnny
Ford.
Ford
I meant to
earlier.
say Johnny Richardson.
Yeah, he plays for those pesky cows over there.
Moo.
Yeah, so Johnny Richardson he's only had 11 carries, but he leads the average with 5.9. Actually, no, he does not. Demarius Good. I had to look farther. So the actual average for Demarius Good is 6.0. He's only had 4 carries though. But so he leads.
Do you realize that we said every single running back that has had a touch this season?
No, we didn't. No.
Oh, who else?
Otis Anderson, Greg McCray, Bentavious Thompson, running back. Johnny Richardson, Demarius Good, R.J. Harvey is another one.
And what was his average?
His average is 1.0.
Oh.
But
he just ruined it for me because I was going to say almost our entire running back group, and I can say almost now, is averaging over 5 yards per carry. I mean, that is insane if you think about it.
Almost, yeah. Almost all of them.
Except R.J. Harvey from Virginia.
Yeah. but he's only had 3 touches. So, and he's gained 3 yards. So one per carry. The total, they say here, is 4.8 average between them. So the longest being Greg McCrae's run of 54 yards. Average per game, Otis Anderson leads that with 80.4. Then Greg McCrae, obviously. Otis Anderson has had 97 attempts and has 581 yards. And Greg McCrae has had 99 attempts and 537 yards. Greg McCrae has had 7 touchdowns compared to Otis Anderson's 4, though, as a running back. So, and Bentavious Thompson has 3. He has 49 attempts for 258 yards.
And there's the difference because I had 47 attempts for 5.7. So
okay, yeah.
I was wondering where the discrepancy was, but yes, he's the big down back.
You were looking at stats that were not including the game from.
Yep, exactly.
Last night. Yeah. All right. Well, it is what it is. I mean, Bentavious Thompson has caught 2 balls for 6 yards, by the way.
So 3 yards per catch?
The longest being 7.
Basic math.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. I think we can move on from that now that we've educated everyone on everyone's yards per catch.
No, I mean, it's, when you start looking at it like that, I mean,
But they're all right around that 5 to 5.8.
They are right around it, yeah. Yeah. So I'm still a Greg McCrae. I'm in Greg McCrae's.
Now, I didn't say Bentavious was the best. What I'm saying is I don't think that back to the original statement that was made, was I don't think that he's overhyped. I just don't think
you don't think he's been a little bit disappointing, though?
No, because I don't think he's been given the opportunity. Now, if he would have had 100 carries like the rest of these guys, and he comes out at 5, would he still be disappointing?
I don't think he would, though.
No, but if he did, would it be disappointing to you?
No, but I just don't think he would, though, given that opportunity. I just don't think he would.
Not with the
just
guys
because
in front
of the way that he is as a runner. We'll see. I mean, we really may see next year. He could very well be the starting running back next year. We shall see.
Well, we have a couple of scat backs waiting in the wings.
No, I know we do, but they're not. It comes. You sometimes get the opportunity of being the upperclassman that others don't. So we'll see who that is for next year. That's a long ways away at this point, but we shall see. It's a crowded running back room. There are a lot of guys.
Yep.
So. What do you think? What's next here? How about the Knightros Deep Thought that you came up with here?
Things that make you say, right? Mm-hmm. There you go. That was a terrible. But we'll keep going with this. So the question for this week, we did this last week, but we're going to do it again this time. Should UCF's identity be benevolent or maintain the killer instinct throughout the game?
I don't remember what I said last week about this. I probably said, go ahead with the rest of it, though. But I still don't remember. So
yeah, I mean, the last time we were talking about it, we were really talking about the differences in approaches to the game. In this particular question, I'm more looking for Frost kind of played a full 60 minutes, right? So he did not let you hang out for a quarter that we didn't do anything. He looked to push points.
Do you think that that's what it is, though? Do you think like last night in the game, the second quarter and the fourth quarter? Do you think the fourth quarter for sure? Do you think the second quarter we were just kind of winging it though, or were we actually struggling?
No, what I saw them do is go uber conservative. So. What you saw was, you remember I mentioned the 5 punts earlier.
So he had the foot on the gas in the beginning, and then went conservative, took the foot off the gas a little bit, and then put the foot back on the gas
Correct.
In the third quarter?
Yeah. I saw them coming out in the third quarter, and I think we wanted to put a little more distance. And then just to get the guys back into it and say, all right, what it was a wholly different play calling situation, wholly different demeanor by the team. In the second quarter, you saw them run, pass, run, pass. And so on third down, we weren't getting any traction on our first and second down running the game because we were backed up against the end zone. So what ended up happening was the defense was all out trying to blitz, and when they were trying to blitz, obviously we weren't getting any traction in the running game because they were stacking the box because they had a short field. And then the passing down, they again blitzed. So when they blitzed, Dylan didn't have a lot of room to work with or a lot of time to get a pass out. And when he doesn't have a lot of time to get a pass out, we're not successful. So we went conservative. And I saw that over and over again. There was a couple times where we were right up against it. We were like on the 2 and then another time on the 5. But there were other punts where we had a little more room, but we still went run, pass. So I think what he was trying to do was milk the clock early to get into the second half, but I think they came out in the third quarter and just said, you know what? We need to put some points on the board. They had 3. They were moving the ball a little bit. We need to put some points on the board to get moving. They clicked the offense on, turned it on like a light switch. We scored. And then, we basically coasted and then put Quadri in. So to me, I get it. Right? We're trying to eat clock to get out of the game with a few. I mean, you can see it in the plays. We had 65 plays. We averaged 98 or 99 plays.
Yeah.
So clearly we shut it down. And it wasn't like Temple was doing anything defensively that was crazy, right? We weren't playing Cincinnati. We were playing Temple. So Houston was doing better and had 99 plays or whatever that we played against Houston. We clearly shut it down, and when we do that, it takes us out of our rhythm. And when we get out of our rhythm, one, we lose the advantage of speed, and on top of that, we just haven't figured out how to play those downs yet. We did it successfully against Tulane for that 8-minute drive, but that 4-minute offense you heard Coach mention earlier, we haven't figured that out yet. So... Okay. To me, I think, there's the argument that can be made. Okay, do you play a full 60, full speed, all out, balls out? Oh, I don't think I can say that.
Can I? That. Yeah,
okay.
You can say anything on a podcast.
Yeah, I'm radio.
You can say it on the radio, too.
We had that conversation. But anyway, the point is the right thing to do? Should we maintain that killer instinct, right? For a myriad of reasons, for the team, for the fan base, for the poll voters. Should we do that? Or do we play it, quote unquote, smart and try to develop that long game and to be able to milk the clock? And I feel like that's a dichotomy, and there's definitely an argument that could be made for both points. So which do you feel is the right move for UCF?
I'm good with playing it safe. I've always been good with playing it safe. I don't particularly like taking the foot off the gas, but then again, if it wins games, it wins games. And that's all that really matters. Heupel has said it from day one here, 1-0. 1-0. If we can win the game, I don't think it really matters how it's done, personally. Yes, it's more exciting. You can score more points. You can pad the stats. We don't need to pad the stats. I mean, we really don't need to.
But think about it this way. We mentioned earlier, right? All of our close losses have been close losses within a score. So, and Memphis we were ahead on Memphis. We were ahead in Tulsa. Last year we were ahead in Tulsa. So I think we were up something like 21-7 or 21-3 at the half against Tulsa last year, and they crawled back into it. Did it again this year. Yeah. So, if we're taking ourselves out of our mojo and then we can't flip it back on, do we run into trouble? Yeah. And there's something to be said for momentum in a game. I mean, if you if you take the fight out of a team, and we've all seen it happen, you take the fight out of a team and they just give up, then you win the game that way too.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, that is kind of what Frost did. He just took the air out of them. It was, I think we called it. What did we call it? I can't remember. Shock and awe, I think, is what I used to call it when Frost's offense and defense shock and awe. It's definitely different. it's conservative versus not conservative.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Frost ever played conservative.
No.
I mean, not ever once. It's just different. I'm okay with being conservative, but then again, you have to be able to turn it back on if you turn it off.
Well, you have to do that, and you have to learn how to play conservative, too.
I don't know if it's something maybe that Heupel's trying to condition guys to be able to turn it off and on like that easily. I don't know what goes through his head. I don't. I mean, I really don't. And he doesn't tell us.
No,
he really doesn't.
Don't want to know.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Now, I've seen him try, we talk about him trying different things throughout the season. We've definitely seen him try to install a longer 4-minute, he called it 4-minute offense, or 8-minute against Tulane or whatever. But, and obviously there's advantages to that. One, you're giving your defense some more rest. Obviously you're taking around the time of possession for people to catch up. So theoretically, if you're up by 3 touchdowns and you can run a 4 or 8-minute offense for a drive, I mean, the game's only 60 minutes.
Yeah.
And you're limiting opportunities for them to come back. So it makes sense. It's just, boy, is it boring. And
it is boring.
And it's hard to get it right.
Yeah.
And then if they do catch up, being able to turn on that mojo again can be difficult at times.
Yeah.
So those are the two things.
Yeah. Well, it is what it is.
I think honestly, I think it's a learning curve. I think he's trying to teach them how to do it.
Both of them have been the number one offense in the nation at times. And this year we have, and in 2017 we were as well. There's the difference between
3.2,
3.2
points per game.
Yeah, it's not a lot. So I think if you can turn it off and still be 45 to 48 with 3 points of a difference, being able to turn it on and off, and your guys learn how to turn it on and off like that, and be conservative and not give the ball up. And I mean, you saw Dylan Gabriel has only thrown 2 interceptions all year long.
He's had a couple fumbles, but 2 interceptions.
I think that's being conservative sometimes. I think that could be a lot higher if you weren't conservative. If you didn't back it down and play the run game a little bit more.
Well, it'll
be interesting. I'll be interested to see. And this year's screwed up because there's not as many games. So comparing this year to those other years is going to be really hard.
I think the one thing to consider too is that is a way for you to conserve energy for the rest of the season as well.
Absolutely.
So these guys are running these
Except
routes.
your wear and tear on the running backs.
Yeah.
That would be the only thing that I would really worry about as far as that goes.
Yeah. But they're splitting 30 carries right now between 3 running backs. So if they continue that process,
true too. Yeah.
10 carries a game for those guys, I mean, keeping fresh legs,
I
keeping
would
the defenders
love
on their
to
heels.
sit down with both of these guys, Heupel and Frost, and just get their opinions, and they would really give them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And not like do the media coach talk.
Do we have to show up at 4 a.m.?
I don't care when it is. I would love to just, really get their philosophies and and ask both of them. Like, okay, well, Frost, you did it this way. Heupel, you're doing it this way, and Frost did it this way. Why? What's because it's coaching philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way that they see it. It's the way that they want it to be, and they're constantly trying different things. To be a coach these days, I mean, yes, you've got a bunch of coaches helping you and bringing in ideas and stuff like that, but it's a lot. It's playing the numbers. A lot of it is playing numbers.
Well, I can tell you this, too. I mean, Heupel, we talk about how his product and what coaching tree he comes from and all these different influences he has. His offense is his own.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
he's taken
changed
elements.
it, yeah.
He's taken elements from what he was doing at Mizzou. He's taken some elements of it from Mizzou.
Yeah.
He's taken some elements from Northern Iowa. He's taken it for some elements from, I don't remember where the other stop, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And so we don't have a pure air raid.
No.
we don't have really nothing else out there that exists right now plays like this. It's like
well, that's why it's the number one.
That's why it's the number one
two.
Offense.
Yeah,
right. But
exactly.
people have to think about that. So he's still developing that system as well as he goes along. So they're both very bright offensive minds,
right?
Both of them in their own right,
but they do it
different
completely
ways.
Different. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's something to think about, and I wish this year was a full year so we could see the real numbers, but it's all skewed because of the short season and COVID, which ruined everything.
I hate you, COVID.
It ruined everything. Ruined college
the
football.
Rona.
Ruined pro football. Pretty much everything. So,
all right,
it's probably going to ruin basketball as well.
Well,
we're going to get to that.
Yeah,
at some point.
I was going to say odds and ends. We can talk about that.
Well, we'll have to have Ben on in the next couple of weeks talking about basketball, so we'll have to start doing that.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I did want to point out for this week on Hoops, I am a season ticket holder, and I continued that for this year. UCF reached out to season ticket holders earlier this week. Finally, we've all been kind of waiting on that. And basically what they did is they offered a 10-game season ticket package at 25% capacity. Based on priority points, you got your calls. And then there were 2 non-conference games that were offered. One was Oklahoma. The other was Auburn. I'm not going to be able to make Auburn, but I am going to make Oklahoma. And so those that have not gotten a call, you should hear a call. They're going to work through their season ticket holders first, and then I imagine they'll do what they did with football. Whatever doesn't get purchased will then go on will go on single game tickets and will be open up to everybody else. But 12-game home schedule, 10 conference games, and Oklahoma and Auburn, and our conference slate this year is pretty good as well. So I'd definitely be on the lookout for that if you're a Hoops fan, and remember it's 25% capacity. So just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. Should be fun. Should be a good basketball season. Hopefully it doesn't get messed up with COVID.
Come on, CJ Walker.
Yeah, it should be interesting. Interesting note you have here, Kenny Turnier in the transfer portal. That's interesting. I guess he can do that, though.
Yeah,
I haven't looked at it recently. I know Daryl Mack is in it. We didn't really mention that either. Good for Daryl Mack, personally. Take your chance and go someplace else and make it happen. We all know that he's good enough to play anywhere.
Yeah.
So good for him. If that's what he wants to do, no hard feelings. We had him on here before he even came. He was one of the guys that I had on after he committed and signed. And love the guy, love his family.
What might have been if he didn't break his ankle playing basketball?
Exactly, or however it happened. It's there's a million different stories out there, but yeah, good for him, and good luck to Kenny Turnier as well out there. So I mean, I wish all the best for these guys. I don't wish anything bad on them. Kenny Turnier, cooked his own goose, but it is what it is. I'm sure he'll be a good player if he can, keep his mouth shut, basically. So, anyway. All right. I think we're going to take a break, and then we'll be back with news, or not news and notes, but we will, because there is no news and notes. There's really nothing. Ask Knightline. We'll be back with that. Hey, Jeep Wrangler owners, have you ever sat in your office at work and watched the rain just pour into your Jeep because the weatherman said that there was a 0 chance of rain? Or you put your doors back on because there was a 100% chance and then not a drop of rain fell? Well, there's a company out there that can help take the worry away and give you the peace of mind to be without your doors. The company's called Life Without Doors. They make waterproof rain curtains and dash covers for Wranglers. Life Without Doors is there to help make the decision to leave the doors at home an easy one. Find out more at lifewithoutdoors.com.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up a menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
I'm Jeff Allen. Join me each and every week on the Knightline Sports Network for the AAC Report. We bring you in-depth coverage of each school in football, basketball, baseball, softball, soccer, golf, tennis, and more, as well as bring you insider interviews and focus in on the biggest games and news of the week. That's all right here each week on the AAC Report, only on the Knightline Sports Network.
Ask a Knightline is brought to you by Chad Barr Law. Chad is a UCF alumnus and diehard Knights fan. Chad Barr Law handles auto accident, slip and fall, and personal injury cases. Call Chad today at 407-599-9036 for a free consultation. That's 407-599-9036. Armor up and call Chad Barr Law today. All right, time again for Ask Knightline, where we're answering questions listeners posted on our Facebook page or via Twitter at #AskKnightline. And first off is Golden Knight 2 again. Thank you for your questions, by the way, both of you guys. What are our percent chances to beat Cincy? Their defense has shut down SMU and Memphis. They gave us a bunch of trouble last year as well, with us struggling to contain mobile quarterbacks and our offense being rather stagnant at times against average defenses. What's your confidence level? I think we talked a little bit about this, obviously, before, and sometimes these things are just in our normal conversation, so we can't, really not talk about it. It has to be 50-50, to be honest with you. All those things that you pointed out, but we can play with these guys. I think we can play with them. I don't think that we're going to get blown out by them or anything like that. I think we win it. I do. It might be close, and maybe our kicker kicks the last-minute field goal. The last second. Who knows?
Sorry, I just snorted.
No, I know, but it's possible. It is possible. Maybe he redeems himself. I hope that it doesn't come down to that. I hope that it's, by 14 points or something, or even 14 or 7 points.
If it does come down to it, I hope to God he makes it, because that would just crush him. I would feel so bad for him if it was 2 games in one season like that.
Who knows? You never know. Anything can happen. And yes, I do think that we can do it, but it's 50-50. At this point,
I'm with you, Andrew. It's 50-50. I think we're playing a well-coached team with a great defensive unit and someone who, in Luke Fickell, who has proven that he knows how to prepare and to attack both offenses and defenses.
If we would have won last night by 60 points, I would have been a lot more confident. But the on the gas, off the gas, on the gas again, off the gas.
Oh, I think we're going to be
worries me.
I think we're going to be on the gas the entire game.
I hope so.
There's no way, Coach Heupel, in my estimation, if we do get up 14 points or we get a couple turnovers or whatever and score quickly, there is no way. And Coach Heupel, if you're listening, I'm giving you my vote of confidence that you will allow us to take our foot off the gas against Cincinnati, the number 7 team in the country.
Aren't they
7?
6? Oh, okay.
Yep, they held steady at 7.
Right.
So, Coach Heupel, I am conveying
I doubt
my
that Coach
confidence in
Heupel's
you.
listening, but maybe. You never know.
Well,
I don't know.
If somebody else is listening that's in the room with him, tell him that my confidence level is very high.
KnightBengal says
that you will not allow that to happen.
Yeah.
You will not take your foot off the gas against
also,
Cincinnati.
Heupel, if you're listening, I really would like to sit down and talk. Anyway, on to Brian W. Peterson. Why so many fans in the stands? It doesn't look like we're even coming close to the 25% mark that we're allowed. Is it strictly COVID concern? Very valid if so, in parentheses. Or are fans just not interested in this season because of our 2 losses? I think it's probably a little bit of both. I really do think that it's kind of the COVID thing still. I think a lot of people are really, really still worried about this thing. Me, not so much, to be honest with you. I mean, I've known quite a few people that have had it at this point, and, funny thing is, I was pouring this bottle of water earlier that I had, and it says Amstar. So, cinema.
Yeah.
I went to the movies today for the first time since this COVID thing. It was really freaking weird if you haven't been to a movie theater. First of all, the reason I went to the movie theater, I have to put this in there. My wife's goddaughter was in a movie with Kevin Costner and I can't remember the other ones. I can't remember her name. Anyway, she was in this movie called Let Him Go. And it's out currently in the movie theaters. This was her first, big movie. I mean, Diane Lane was the other person. Big movie. So we had to go see it today. We were the only people in the theater, my wife and I. It was freaking awesome. I was like, I want one of these at home, honey. We've got to build a theater.
Well, I did see something where they were allowing a theater to be rented out. I think it was AMC for $75 for one movie.
Her family.
You can have the entire theater for $75.
Yeah. My wife's goddaughter's, Kaylee Carter, by the way. Kaylee Carter. Look her up. She was also, she's been in a couple Netflix things and all that, but and a couple other movies, one with Paul Giamatti and all that. But Kevin Costner, that's pretty huge. Anyway, her family rented a theater and watched it all together on the opening day. So that was pretty cool. Anyway, I do think that a lot of this, getting back to, it was valid in this conversation.
Around the world.
It was. I do think that this is a lot of the COVID thing, and I think that certain people don't want to go out there and have to wear a mask the entire time. I see these videos of people like getting kicked out of the games because of the mask Nazis, people calling them the mask Nazis. People and then people reporting people, telling on them for not having their mask on or not having their mask on properly. I don't think a lot of people want to deal with that, to be honest with you. It's completely different. You don't have your normal seats, all that stuff. I haven't been to a game yet because I personally don't want to deal with it. I'd rather just go back when everything's going to be normal again. So I do think that there's some of it is that. I may go to the Cincinnati game. I may not. I still need to decide that. But I would just rather... and that's what I'm saying. I think I would rather go when everything is normal again. So I think that people are still pretty interested in the game, in the season. But, I mean, we do have 2 losses. So you've seen that before when we didn't have, a great season going on. There's still a lot of good stuff to see out there, though. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of good football being played.
All right, so let's talk numbers, because I'm a numbers guy, right? According to UCF, and take this with a grain of salt, the average attendance is around 8,700 people per game. Okay, the 25% max for our stadium is 11,000. Okay, that includes, I believe it's 3,000 that are set aside for students. Okay, so if you do the math, we're sitting at about 80% capacity right now. If you believe UCF's
80%
number,
of the 25%.
Correct.
Yeah,
and the students. Obviously, there's going to be less participation there as well, and a large chunk of that block is the student section. So, do I think the numbers are as bad as they may seem because it's an empty stadium? No. Do I know that it's 8,700? Do I believe that? Not necessarily. But then again, the flip side of it, and to your point, Andrew, I don't think it has anything to do with the 2 losses. I personally think it's that you're missing the rest of the game day experience, including tailgating.
That's huge to a lot of people. That's huge to me. It's huge to me. Although I do sit at home watching these games, and I'm like, man, I wish I was there. But then again, I don't want to jump through all the hoops. It's just one of those things. I just don't.
I will say this about that.
I wear my mask when I need to, when I'm told to, where I have to. Otherwise, I'm not freaking wearing a mask.
And that's the important part, where you're told to. And look, I want to say this, and you mentioned this as well. Anybody who's out there that's going to the game, you know what the rules are.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Don't go get to the game, not abide by the rules, and then get mad and start yelling and throwing a temper tantrum, right?
Yeah.
It's not good for us. It's not good for the people that are trying to work there doing their jobs.
If you don't want to deal with it, don't go.
Don't go,
Yeah.
because it sets up a bad situation for the program, Danny White, and guess what? It may piss you off to the point where you don't end up going back.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, it's not a good situation all the way around. So if you prefer not to experience it that way, just don't go.
Yeah. And it means nothing about if you're a fan or not, blah,
Exactly.
blah, blah. It's just, these are strange times. And people, want to do certain things and don't want to do certain things. I completely understand if you're afraid and don't want to go places and all that stuff. I'm going to go places. I'm going to wear my mask where I have to. I'm not going to wear it when I don't have to. So that's kind of the way that I think about it personally. But I think that's the reason personally.
Yeah,
So,
I'm with you.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what is really left. We don't have we don't have news and notes or anything. Those have been few and far to come by. So this is going to do it for Knightline 242. I'm Andrew Phegley.
And I'm Roger Phipps. Go Knights!
Charge on.
UCF, charge on to the field.